Hi, my name's Esther. I'm a Christian. I have ADHD, and today I'm making sort of a response video to another Christian ADHD YouTuber. I want to preface with it's not really a response video, it's more of an add-on video because I actually agree with, as far as I can tell, everything that he's saying. First off, I wanted to say that I've been trying to come up with the ideas to make a video responding to a lot of the questions that I get about whether or not Christians should take medication for their ADHD. And just to be completely transparent, I don't have the time to work on that yet. I'd love to still make a video. I thought that this creator had a great video, and I'd love to just add on to that with more biblical wisdom. However, what I'm going to do today instead, because it takes me a little bit less time, is just make a video talking about my personal experience with medication, because, spoiler alert, I do take ADHD medication, and I do think that it's helpful, and I don't think that it is a sin. So, the YouTuber that I'm talking about is Christian Craig, or I Am Christian Craig. I'll link his YouTube video that I'm talking about down below in the description. But he talks about how the Bible doesn't explicitly condemn using medication, and in general Christian tradition and life, we know that we use medication for lots of things, and we actually pray for God to work through medication. Christian Craig uses the example of if someone's going in for surgery, we still pray that God will heal them, and a lot of times we pray the prayer of, God, please work through this surgeon's hands, right? So there's no general consensus that, oh, maybe you shouldn't get that life-saving surgery because maybe God will just heal you naturally. Now, I'm sure those things still happen. In fact, I've heard of some of them, and I also know that there are some parts of Christianity where people don't believe in getting life-saving medical care. I strongly disagree with that, but again, I'm not getting into all of the debate and philosophy of all of that today. I'm just going to talk about my personal experience, so you can absolutely disagree with me, and I would also love to hear your personal experience. One thing that I always find so interesting is how many people think that taking ADHD medication is a sin. Now, I don't know if you in your personal life have experienced people telling you that it's sin, but for me, I had this belief that maybe it was wrong, and yet nobody in my personal life had ever told me that. I don't know if it was from YouTube. I've definitely seen the YouTube videos and clickbaity titles about ADHD medication being a sin, or I got healed from my ADHD. And I'm not saying that I know for a fact that people can't be healed from ADHD. Definitely not. However, I've never seen that in my personal life, so again, just talking from my personal point of view. Okay, spoiler is I take medication. Spoiler is I don't think that it's wrong. If you want to continue to hear, stay for the rest of the video. So, I got diagnosed with ADHD in college, so not early on. I think this is the case for a lot of women, and I've also heard that ADHD can be kind of a trend, and that's definitely what I was kind of thinking it might be. It was super trendy on TikTok to diagnose yourself with ADHD in 2021, 2022. So I was thinking, I might not actually have it. I might just think that I have it because everybody's diagnosing themselves with everything. So I was trying to be wise about whether or not I actually had it. And I did go to a doctor, and I did get diagnosed after a little bit of testing. And I still wasn't really sure I wanted to take meds. Now, I again had this idea in my head that it was weaker or wrong to take medication, or I was somehow less than or other or weird if I did. And I just got some good advice from a godly friend who was reminding me that people take medication for things all the time, which I think is so true. We take medication if you have a heart disease, or if you have high blood pressure, and nobody thinks that's a sin, but just because something is in your brain doesn't mean that it suddenly becomes sinful. So even though ADHD is associated with things that could be sinful, like being lazy, which could be being slothful or being gluttonous, or things that are sins, doesn't mean that the part of your brain that's making it difficult to do the right thing is wrong to turn off. I don't know if I'm being too confusing, but basically there are real physical things in your brain that make you have ADHD. So trying to solve those with physical means like medicine makes sense just like anything else does. I digress. Let me go back to personal story now. But that was what I was thinking at the time. Anywho, I started taking meds and I found them super helpful for being able to get my work in college done. I never struggled in school, grade school, kindergarten through 12th grade with schoolwork, but when I got to college and had a lot less structure, it was really difficult for me to get my schoolwork done or to find the time or the place where I could slow down and do schoolwork. So definitely having ADHD medication changed the game for me on that and allowed me to focus. Also, even just the diagnosis of ADHD helped me a lot with finding actual working methods to help my life. I know these things sound gross, but if you have ADHD or you've been like this, or maybe depression, I know that you'll relate to this. I was struggling to shower, to brush my teeth, to eat 3 meals a day. I was finding myself like at 10 p.m., 11 p.m., just like eating an entire box of like Annie's bunnies from my mom because I wouldn't eat all day because I wouldn't get hunger cues and my schedule was different every day, and it was really difficult to feel like I could function properly, and I felt like I stank and my hair was gross, and those things were kind of true, but you know, it was okay. Jesus still loves me and he loved me then. And something with ADHD is that there can be a lot of shame with feeling lazy, and so I think that meds can help a lot with that. There's things that can help you make yourself feel better about yourself, but at the end of the day, sometimes we need to change our actions, and medication for me was one of the only ways that could really help me change those specific actions. Now, nowadays, I'm, working my full-time job, and I use medication to help me get work done. I use medication specifically to help me focus at church, which really for me solidifies that I'm using this for the right reasons, since how is it sinful if it's helping me focus on what the pastor is saying in ways that I couldn't before? Now, I definitely think that methods to help you focus with ADHD, methods to help you get organized, are still super important and make the meds work better for me. I don't think that I would be able to focus at church if I wasn't also using my journal to help me write down notes and put away some of my crazy thoughts that I still have during the church service. But medication makes it a lot easier and kind of takes away the physical pain that comes with sitting still for too long, and helps take away that like initial difficulty to start a task, or like task initiation. So it's like a mix of both, of like doing these skills, like life skills of getting better at organizing, and also medication. So for me, medication really changed the game of making things just doable day to day. A lot of the skills that I do, or like that I talk about on this channel, I use with medication, and I can do a lot of them without medication, but I can't do them every day without medication, if that makes sense. So like on a good ADHD day, I can do all of them. On like a medium day where I'm like tired, not feeling super motivated, those things can help me. And then on a bad day where I'm just completely unmotivated, it's impossible for me to do those unless I have meds. And by impossible, it's like this weird brain game of like, I would have the hardest time getting up off the couch. Like it felt like I would just sit there and think, get up off the couch. Why am I not getting up? Oh my gosh, get up, get up, get up. And I just couldn't do it. And some people might say that's laziness. There was something else going on though, and medication takes that like awfulness away. Sometimes I still don't want to do laundry or dishes or those types of things, but I can get up and do them and just not like it. You know what I mean? It's completely different than just not being able to get up and do it. So from my personal experience, meds were super helpful and are super helpful, and I'm not saying that they are for everybody or that everybody will have this experience, but I just wanted to offer like some insight as a Christian who's been a Christian for a long time, that is not new to ADHD, is not new to Christianity, is not new to meds, that these are some things that can actually be helpful and are not super scary. And yeah, okay. Now I'm going to briefly talk about some of the negatives with meds, just if you're curious, again, only from my perspective. I found the first time around in college when I was taking ADHD meds that I got really anxious when I was at work. I worked full-time at the end of my college career, and when I was doing outside of work stuff, like just sitting down and focusing on tasks or going through my day-to-day schedule in the morning or the night, they were super helpful for helping me brush my teeth, do my homework. But while I was at work, there was too many things pulling my attention every which way, and it was so difficult to focus even with the meds that I feel like the meds made it more anxiety inducing. Now, I went off of them and then got back on them a couple years later, and I still find that they can cause a little bit of anxiety, but it's easier to manage because I did go to therapy, and being able to manage anxiety symptoms first or while having meds makes the little bit of anxiety I get from meds go down. So, for example, like I was talking about a little bit earlier, I still use a lot of my like ADHD strategies for organization, right, to help me stay on track during the day, and having those in place already helps me minimize my anxiety. So one of the big things is like my thankfulness journal, helping me just keep a sense of what's actually happening today and like the world's not falling apart today. Keeps the general anxiety away while I'm taking meds. Also, just having a list of things that I need to accomplish realistically, like a 5-step list that needs to get accomplished, not 100-step list, makes it so that I have a clear sense of what actually needs to get done and what's okay to not get done during the day. So using normal anxiety reducing techniques helps take that anxiety away. It doesn't stay forever. I also think, I don't know if this is true or not. Again, this is actually 100% just my experience. I feel like the little bit of like anxiety that I get from meds helps me to be motivated. Like, you know how some anxiety is a good and normal thing? Like the anxiety that you get right before a deadline is approaching and then you suddenly can do everything really well. That is like, I feel like the type of anxiety that I get. So I think that it's probably supposed to be there and it's normal. And then it feels really good to be able to get stuff done with meds because the dread of getting them done goes away. So I'm like trading the dread of my normal life, like, oh my gosh, I can't get these tasks done, to, oh my goodness, what if I don't get these tasks done, but then I normally can't get them done. So it's just being able to keep a good mindset about your life is what helps that little bit of anxiety from medication go away. So if you can remember, it actually is not the end of the world to not get all your tasks done. Then when you get 3 out of 5 done, it's still a good thing and still way better than before meds when you couldn't get any of them done. So that is just my experience, and I would love to know your experience in the comments or any other way of replying to me. I'd love to know if anyone has decided to not take meds or decided to take meds recently and how you made that decision. And I would love in the future to make a video deep diving into all these things, but for now, there was my personal experience. Okay, have a good day. Bye!